productivity and contribution is more genuine and authentic.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chairman, sir. So it's actually indeed a privilege for me to be present here, speaking about 75 years of Parliament, of the largest and one of the most diverse democracies of the world. It's no mean feat, sir, that parliamentary democracy has flourished in this country because of this Parliament. What is currently happening or is about to happen is that we would be moving in a symbolic fashion from old to the new, from new to the aspirational, and from a democracy which was marked by bills and acts which laid the foundation, or which will be the foundation for several such new bills and acts in the future in the new building. Sir, I would like to speak about a speech which Dr. Ambedkar made in the Law College of University of Delhi way back in 1948. He says, "There could be no doubt that one of the countries which could boast of a great ancient civilization was India. It had parliamentary institutions when people of Europe were mere nomads." It is not that India did not know what is democracy. There was a time when India was studded with republics, and even where there were monarchies, they were either elected or limited. It is not that India did not know parliaments or parliamentary procedure. A study of the Vinaya Pitaka and the Buddhist Bhikshu Sanghas discloses that not only there were parliaments, for the Sanghas were nothing but parliaments, but the Sanghas knew and observed all the rules of parliamentary procedure known to modern times. So I would concur with what other members were referring to say that democracy did not really originate in Greece, but it originated many years before in this particular land. So if we are talking about parliament, I would like to think that since we knew about the parliamentary functioning for a long time, and since we are talking about the Constituent Assembly, the Constituent Assembly gave us the Constitution. But it is the Parliament that helps to make the Constitution a living document by the process of amendments. And that is how each one has enabled and strengthened the other. And these amendments have actually made the Parliament, made the functioning of the Parliament closer to the socio-economic and political reality of each of the times, the entire history of this particular 75 years. So the role of Parliament, in a sense, anywhere in the world, would be fourfold. So one, to make laws, which will be evolving with the times. Second, to pass the budget. Third, to raise national, state, and local issues. And number four, to hold the executive to account by various procedures of question and answer and committees and PSC and COPO and other such matters. Now, if we talk about the first and the foremost duty of Parliament, that is to make laws, I know that the Parliament has made several laws. There are more than 100 amendments which have been passed, but I would like to concentrate on a few. And those are, the first one, on the center-state relations. So the Parliament, right from the time the Constituent Assembly debates have taken place, has been cognizant of the fact that the states have a very important role to play in democracy. In fact, Renuka Ray, she was a member of the Constituent Assembly, while agreeing with Pandit Kunjru, she says it is necessary that the center should be in a position to see that provinces do not fall behind in regard to the minimum standards of development. But agreeing with Pandit Kunjru, it is also not possible for a province to administer its responsibilities in an adequate manner if its financial position is unstable or uncertain. Therefore, the Parliament's job is threefold. One, legislative relations, administrative relations, and financial relations. While on the first two front, I think there has not been much divergence except occasional allegations of center legislating on the state list. The problem has been the financial relations, the devolution of funds. And I think this is where our Chief Minister, my leader, Honorable Naveen Patnaik, has always been saying that the cess and surcharge which comes to the central kitty should be made a part of the divisible pool. I think this is what we have to look forward in the next 25 years to be happening, to make the states actually financially independent and financially sustainable to take the entire goal of the nation forward. The second aspect that I would like to talk about is on the issue of women, sir. So on the issue of women, the Parliament has passed several landmark legislations, and many of them have already been spoken about here. One is the Hindu Marriage Act. It removed polygamy, marriage of a maiden and that of a widow, the registration of Hindu marriage, the divorce, the Hindu Succession Act, which is very significant because it gave property rights to women, the Hindu Succession Amendment Act, Child Marriage Act, and several such acts relating to women. But I think it stopped short of one particular last legislation, and that is reservation for women in the parliaments and the assemblies. And that, you know, sir, our leader, Honorable Naveen Patnaik, has been taking it forward for a long period of time, sent emissaries to all political parties. We have spoken here all the time to bring this legislation so that women, the gender parity and the gender equity, the theme reaches its final conclusion by this parliament, whether here or in the new building. And the last point, sir, that I would like to talk about is environmental constitutionalism. Sir, this is the Parliament which has passed most of the environmental laws, starting with Air Pollution Act, Prevention of Air Pollution, Prevention of Water Pollution, Environmental Protection Act. Several such laws have been passed, and that is how the Parliament has responded to the existential crisis that is facing this world at large, which is happening because of climate change. I think the Parliament has responded very well, but there are two gaps which probably could be brought in, and that is how the Parliament of India would have responded to the world, and that is to bring in a legislation to ensure that net zero is reached in a fixed period of time, and incentives are given for proper environmental response. So last point, our Parliament, while we transition from here to that building, would also mark a transition in the way the Parliament of India is responding to technology, sir. So we are moving from a physical, more of a physical parliament to a parliament which is both physical and digital, Sansad, sir. It will be it is not yet hybrid, but that will be the way forward, sir. So I think with this, I would end my speech. Thank you so much for giving me these opportunities.
Well, you are very well audited. That's your background. Sri Tiruchi Shiva.